And so when John Schrock was born, he was destined to be a farmer.
Hey everyone, Sarah Hand here. I'm in Minneapolis to share a story about the Larson family and their Our Yesterday farm. They have such an incredible story to tell, from how they became farmers back in the day to what incredible things they are doing this very day. Let's go check out their story.
My name is Jack Larson, and I'm a farmer.
I'm Clint Larson, and I'm a farmer. I'm Nate Larson, and I'm a farmer.
So the saga begins. In 1915, Noah Schrock, who was my wife's granddad, came from central Illinois, and he was a single man, but was soon to be married. And when he moved into the bottom, he decided that his family had a farm there in the Oakville Bottom in Iowa, and he decided he wanted to move to Iowa and farm that farm and exit central Illinois. So when he got here in 1915, then he got married. He began to farm this bottom ground and near the Mississippi, and his first son was John Schrock, who was my wife's dad. And so when John Schrock was born, he was destined to be a farmer. He lived and breathed farming his whole youth, and as soon as he was capable, then my wife's granddad couldn't wait until he could take over the farming, and he did do that probably, and it wasn't until after World War II that he did it, because he spent almost 4 years in the Army in Europe in World War II. So when he came back then in 1946, then he began to farm with his dad and then began to take over the operation. And in 1947, he bought the farm up here on what we call the bluff, and away from the Mississippi, but up over the top of the bluff, and that's where we're standing today, is the farm that he bought in 1947. That whole Oakville Bottom existence stayed in force from that 1915 Noah Schrock until 2008. And in 2008, there was a major flood that the Oakville Bottom people could not recover from. Nathan and I were the farmers of that whole Schrock existence. So when everybody had to move off of the bottom there in 2008, and Nathan saw the line of machinery exiting down the gravel road from a whole bunch of people's farms. I mean, there was livestock going in trailers, there were tractors, there were wagons, there were planters, there were just everything that was on a farm that they could get out. They had about 3 days warning, and there was just a massive amount of equipment and farmsteads on the bottom.
I knew that it really had impacted my oldest son, Nate, and he was a big part of the farming scene down where my dad had farmed and where his dad had farmed and where we were currently living and farming. It was just like passage into a new era, it seemed like, especially for us, because no longer would we have a homestead or a farm down on the bottom.
And he said, I don't want that to die without having some kind of a remembrance of it, which began the Our Yesterday farm. And it was his brainchild to develop a field day, a little bit of a field day, but more of like a potluck dinner. Neighbors come in, and we'll do a little old-fashioned stuff. like corn picking with ear corn pickers, plowing with older tractors, maybe even bring in some horses and plow with some horses, did various things like that. That was the inception of the field day, and it after about, I think we held it for 9 years straight.
A lot of the things that we still do on this farm, a lot of things that we believe in, a lot of the concepts, the systems, have their roots back, 40, 50 years ago. I never really knew I wanted to farm until we moved to Texas in 2012, and I couldn't be around the farm every weekend. So in 2015, my wife and I and son Truett moved back to the farm. And it was actually coincided with when we started up our meat business. Our Yesterday Farms starts with our own herd, heavily Angus influenced, Angus bull. We breed all of our own cows, have those calves. We'll feed those calves out to an age, 15 to 18 months when they're fat and ready to go to the locker. And we calve both in the spring and the fall because we need meat year round. And so if we calved all of our calves at one time of the year, we would have an oversupply at the wrong time of year. So to spread that out to match our demand, we calve both in the spring and the fall. We basically have a standing locker appointment every month where we take between 2 and 4 calves to the locker, bring the meat home, put it in the freezer, and right away a lot of that's going right out to our customer base on a monthly basis. So none of it is shipped. It's all local delivery, and when I say local, it's predominantly within a 20-mile radius of where we are in southeast Iowa, but we also make regular trips every month to Iowa City in the Cedar Rapids area, and every package of meat is hand-delivered by one of us to a customer.
We got to be kind of eating out snobs, and we would say that, well, let's just stay home and grill because, we won't be disappointed.
It's really important. From our standpoint, when we lived in Texas, we would buy meat at grocery stores, but mainly we would bring meat back from home. And it was because we knew the product, we knew where it came from, and it became very apparent that that's important to people. We want to be able to reach out and touch people in our community with a quality product. They know us, they know how we raise the animals, they know that we're feeding them non-GMO grains, which is very important to some people. And the other thing is just being able to provide some regular interaction to tell them what's going on the farm so they know this is how things actually work, that it's not just going to the shelf and the grocery store and seeing there's a package of meat. They know how it got to them.
The meat business is so rewarding. It is such a missing link in what's going on. And there's very little appreciation for the farmer until they find out, especially kids, that you don't just go to Hy-Vee and get your food. It's a big eye-opener, and a lot of that stuff has gone by the wayside because we're in the digital age right now.
So begins a new chapter, which has occurred by now. I'm 74 and a half, and I don't have to make very many decisions. The decisions I make on this farm are day to day with the livestock. And they laugh at me sometimes, but they know that I am the livestock guy, and I am fortunate enough to have a 50-year-old son and a 40-year-old son who both love the farm.
We don't take the lifestyle for granted. We don't take the things that kids learn for granted by being in an operation like this. And I'll guarantee you, you're going to go in your career and you're going to find way fancier operations with way more awesome machinery and way more tech-savvy people and just way more connected people. But this is pretty real grassroots agriculture here.
I love farming because I get to see, what God does out here. We plant a seed in the ground in the spring and just have faith that it's going to grow. And He provides what we need to harvest that crop in the fall. But what comes with that is being able to teach my boys about the values, the responsibility that comes with growing up on a farm, that whether they decide to farm or not later in life, they'll always have what they learned on the farm, how to work, and that responsibility when they get to be adults.
As I contemplate my life on the farm, my own individual life on the farm, my existence on the farm has always been, it's just always been in my blood. And I've never been off the farm. Oddly enough, now I can say it. So in 1972, I began to farm, actively farm, just farm, and I've never been off the farm ever.
All along, I said I was not going to marry a farmer. And I really didn't know a whole lot about the farm because growing up, my dad was like his dad, and they always had hired men. And so my dad had 3 daughters, and they did learn things in the house and, you know, cooked and kind of waited on our dad and things like that. And I seriously really do not think that I had ever driven a tractor until I married Jack and he needed me to help in the field. So that's how my story of never marrying a farmer ended up.
So when I look to the future of what Our Yesterday Farms is going to be, we'll continue to have this meat business that I think will continue to grow. We've had great growth over the last several years. And then we'll continue to improve the crop ground, you know, where we plant crops. There's a lot of work ahead of us of being able to improve the ground from a fertility perspective, being able to take out some trees and get some more acres back. Being able to grow our farm over the next several years I think will be important as well.
And that's a wrap for the Larson family and the Our Yesterday Farms story. And I'm here with Clint.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll see you next time.